Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Alberto Ibargüen.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome everyone. First of all, let's give another round of applause to Patrick Lavie and Emma Hedrick. What a voice. I was listening to her backstage and I thought, this was young arts, but this sounds like about a 40 or 50-year-old really seasoned voice. And I came out and I see a child. You're wonderful. Fantastic. This is a really exciting time of year in Miami at the start of Art Week. And it's exciting to be part of a new initiative that brings together art lovers, art buyers, art funders who share a common belief in the arts as a force for good in society and in the search for common ground to support the flourishing of art in our communities. Each of us here is here today because we care about art in ways that go beyond the immediacy of Art Week. Over the course of this afternoon, we're going to listen to conversations designed to create understanding around the current state of the arts and perhaps even move us to action. Those conversations are premised on a few fundamental beliefs. Number one, art and culture are singularly effective ways to build community. Number two, art and culture are laudable aims in and of themselves. Number three, there is a major role for philanthropy in the promotion of art in community. And number four, we have to deal with real data based on research, not only intuition. If you'll permit me, if you'll indulge me really, I'd like to explain why we at Knight Foundation, where I work, and where some of my colleagues who are also here today work, have placed such a heavy emphasis on funding art in community, and it relates to those fundamental beliefs. Really good art, art that inspires and explains, art that ennobles and challenges, art that helps us understand each other, is art that builds community. Knight Foundation's fundamental goal is to inform and engage community toward a better functioning democracy. Nothing, in my view, engages people like their culture and like the art and music, poetry and prose they use to express themselves. Art and experience create culture, and that culture binds people to place and to each other. So for a foundation that wants to build community, supporting the arts is a natural act. It also happens to be buttressed by 3 years' worth of Gallup studies about what binds people to place and to each other. Knight is a national foundation, but we focus very tightly on local communities in the United States, where the Knight brothers in their day had newspapers. We consider ourselves social investors, and as investors, we want a return. In our arts program, we invest in projects that are organic and authentic to Knight cities. We encourage innovation, leverage technology to increase engagement, and access to the arts. It's really important to us that we not simply fund the project, but that there be a social return. Our focus is on 8 Knight cities in the US, and that, we think, increases the impact of our work. We typically employ a strategy of being the second or third largest funder of some key institutions in town, and then a major funder of grassroots arts creation in each of the towns. And after some 14 years of effort, I think we're beginning to see the results. I don't know when you're going to see there. Sooner or later, that was going to come up. This is everything we do. We try to make the effort, test it, make the effort again, test it again, and keep on iterating that way. We have done everything on our way from, at the beginning, funding the Cleveland Orchestra in the pit of the Miami City Ballet, to dropping poems from a helicopter on a crowd that was listening to alternative music. And of course, it was on biodegradable paper written with vegetable ink, for those of you who are worried. But it was poetry. We seek to leverage or accelerate what we find organically happening in a community. And Miami and Detroit are two good examples, and that's what that study actually looked at. These are two night cities where we've committed significant funding, $165 million in Miami and more than $50 million in Detroit. In Miami, I always remember at the beginning of that process, there was a letter to the editor. It was actually right at the beginning of Basel, so I'll call it 2002, 2003, and somebody wrote to the editor, "This is crazy. What are you people trying to do? This is not an arts town. This is not a culture town. This is about beach and sun and tourism." We saw something very different in this town. We saw a base of art collectors that included Bremen and Margulies, De La Cruz, Rubel, and others when Art Basel, before Art Basel actually first opened in 2002. Miami already had one of the largest book fairs in the country, a major film festival. It was the center of Latin music recording in its day. And since then, over the next 17 years, I think we were proven quite right. We've built 2 symphony halls, an opera house, 2 completely new museums, enhanced 2 others significantly, a science museum and a children's museum. This is all basically in the space of a decade. This hall, which I'm very, very proud of, and I'm particularly proud of anything that is technological, even though this microphone seems to be falling off my ear. But since Knight endowed the technology in this building, I always say that it's absolutely the best in the world. It's amazing. But the New World Symphony, PAM, ICA, the Frost, the Bass that now really roll off the tongue are all relatively new inventions or reinventions of legacy institutions that have decided to evolve in order to not only survive, but thrive. And at the same time, we've seen enormous growth of hundreds of smaller emerging organizations that reflect the rich diversity of Miami. I wish you had been there last night when we had our 13th annual Knight Arts Awards, and you would have seen every color, I just can't tell you the variety from orchestra to queer tango. It was a wonderful array of Miami talent, and we celebrate the artists, and we celebrate the arts champions who have been so important in funding, and give each of the 20-odd champions $10,000 to give on to whichever artist or organization they choose. You have no idea how exciting that is in the moment, how inspiring it is, and how fantastic it is for those of us at the foundation, because 99% of the time we have not heard of the artist somebody wants to give another $10,000 to. So our network continues to expand. We've come a long way. In Detroit, we've come a long way, and the goal is to make art general, to make it normal, to make it every day, to make it something you breathe, something you smell, something you look at every day, anywhere you look in Miami. In Detroit, we took a somewhat different approach, because Detroit is not Miami. Detroit, where in Miami we wanted to build commitment to community in a place where 3/4 of the population were born someplace else. And that creates a tremendous problem when you're trying to build community. People are used to thinking of back home. People are thinking of someplace else, and or of returning, are here only while trouble is happening at home, they want to go back. We wanted to have people committed to place. In Detroit, we had commitment to place. We also had a battered citizenry of survivors. Frankly, the 700,000 people who remained in a city that used to be 2 million weren't going anyplace. So we had that commitment to place and to each other. And in the Gallup polling that we did, we found that young Detroiters, curiously enough, tended to be the most optimistic cohort of all. In other words, you threw everything you could at them and they were still standing. They were not cowed. What we saw was a wonderful opportunity for art to help change the narrative about Detroit from struggle to renewal and renaissance. Art has helped Detroiters tell their own stories to others and to each other, and they're not stories of poverty or the photojournalism that showed some of the most amazing wrecks of buildings that we've ever seen, but people producing really interesting art about living in a vibrant, diverse community looking forward. Having one of the great gems of museums in Western civilization, the Detroit Institute of Arts, didn't hurt, but the strategy was really just retelling their own story, not having it told by somebody else. And I tell you these two stories because, in summary form, only by way of example of how one organization views the funding of art. As funders, you'll find what you want to do, what speaks to you, and what we have here today, I hope, is the beginning of a big and enlarging tent for people who believe that art is a way to have positive impact on society, on the way people think and feel about themselves and about their community. We hope this forum will spur your own thinking and that this community of funders can grow into a supportive organization helping you reach your goals. With that as prologue, I want to say just a word of appreciation for our speakers this afternoon, Eddie Torres, Diana Haggag, Sarah Arison, Bridget Evans, Hank Willis-Thomas, and Patton Hindle. And a special thanks to Sean McManus and Melissa Wolf of M&D Consulting, and Victoria Rogers, the Vice President of Arts at Knight Foundation, for organizing this afternoon and giving us the time and space to discuss the future of philanthropy in the arts. Thank you, and with that, let me please bring on Sean McManus to the stage. Sean?